He
You're
goes
like,
out
"You're
through.
half right."
He goes out through the security exit, and you're like, "Are you allowed to do that?" And he came back, which was the scariest part. He's a really tall guy.
I was gonna say, you're probably sweating because
Yeah,
you're
like
like,
I'm
oh my God,
21,
he's
and he's a couple of years younger than
Yeah.
he looks now, but he's always been. He could be basketball height. He came back, and he's like black glasses and black shirt, and like he feels like Batman or something, And he comes to watch the table. I'm like, oh no. Thank God Adrian came second in the WSOP main event.
So what was
thank
that?
God, like it just changed so much in my life because I'd started to actually heal a bit since then, and my physical health was thankfully a bit better. And it had been between the cats and the girl, like a couple of years, and I sort of looked at the person who you guys would have seen was with me all the time in Australia.
All the time.
And
Through all the haircuts that you guys had.
some better than others.
I think he's like inspired each other, and I just like who was wrong
inspired
there.
bad and good choices, it seems. Yeah. And we'd been studying like just a little bit very casually using some software and stuff, and we looked at this board online, and we talked about just check raising from the big blind. And Adrian was like, a little bit of piece of the main this week. And I was like, yeah, cool. Can't say percentages because I'm bound to privacy. But I was like, okay, cool. And didn't hear from him for a few days. And then I saw like on day 4 or something, he had like an okay amount of chips, like a workable stack, like 60 bigs or something. I was like, oh, that's pretty good for day 4. And then like it just started going up and up and up. And then he started getting on the coverage. And I think it was with the last 2 tables, and we're already standing. This is our normal mode of watching at this point. You no longer sit on the couch, you just stand. And, you're obviously hoping for the best. And he defended the big blind against Dobrich. I think it was button versus big blind. And like dead set, the almost exact same board came out. And I was sitting with my friend Michael Tan, and I just go, oh no. And he's like, what do you mean? And as the viewer, we can see this board that was like King 4-3, and Dobrich has King 2, and Adrian had like 2 overs in the gutter or something like that, like 6-7. And I'm forgetting a little bit now, but it was like almost the exact same board. And so I could see the villain had top pair, and I'm going, oh no. And Tan's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, Adrian's going to check raise. And he's like, how the fuck do you know that? And I was just like,
so
I know
good.
he's going to check raise. Adrian check raises. And the guy calls because he has top pair. And I'm like, no, this is how it all goes. And
You're like, I think I've seen this film before.
the guy folds top pair on the river, and the front door flush draw got there, which is what Adrian ended up repping. And the host
That
was
card
like,
comes out, and Didier's like, yes, this is how it all was meant to go.
and I had the inside track at the time. The guy was not cool about it once he saw the hand history at Dobrich. And then Adrian ended up playing this other insane hand against him on the final table where he called King Queen out of the small blind, flop top pair, check raise, and Dobrich put in a flop 3-bet, which is just like in Solver World.
Oh, he's
not
coming.
A thing. Like there's
he's coming for blood. He's
and
like,
it was just,
I remember.
So weird.
He
It's just like,
didn't read Didier's intro to poker. He's supposed to just keep calling.
Yeah, so Adrian took the chip lead at that point, and it was just like the most exciting thing ever.
Yeah.
Not only, for my friend, and then, again, you asked about like clapping for my friend, just wanted him to win.
Yeah.
Like Corey said it so well,
He's
like
doing it for you guys.
Well, yeah, but he also just deserves it. Like, even before coming to Poker Palace, he'd come off the back of playing an online Sunday.
Mate,
there
honestly,
were so many days where he just studied for so long before he even thought about playing.
we were so happy for him first and foremost. Obviously,
Yeah.
I like genuinely was so happy for him. But fuck me, that was so good for my company because his
Now we're getting the real honesty.
so
Same.
I was honestly so happy, but then
Same.
at the same time, his profile photo was iconic. It was him with our like iconic Poker Palace sign, which I swear to God, Marconi could get torn down tomorrow. I love that sign so much. It was him, Frank, and Sammy Luciano behind the Poker Palace sign, and he left his profile photo for like 6-7 months, and all of my old bosses were like, Lore, what the fuck? And I was like, that photo was taken before I was born probably. And it's just
random ads like,
So funny, he didn't talk about it much. He was just like, I just thought Sammy would really like it. And I was
he
like,
did, but he
It's the
honestly
sweetest
did.
thing, like,
he did
it would
because
mean a lot
I
to
remember
Sammy, right?
Sammy, listen, Sammy is my husband in a different life, but Sammy,
GG.
yeah, Sammy's
Mine
literally Sammy.
GG.
Sammy put up this big status, and it was like, you know what it was? It was just so core. That predates me. I can't take any responsibility for that.
Yeah.
It just showed the love and community that Poker Palace had, because I swear when Adrian Attenborough ran deep, it was like poker was reborn in Sydney again, like, and truly in the heart of everybody. I mean, Sammy put up a big long stats. I don't even know if the bloke knows how to use this phone, but he put like a big thing being like, so happy for Adrian, because everybody was. I was super happy that his profile picture was Poker Palace. I mean, if he wants me to send him a check at any point, I probably will.
I'll let him know.
But how was that, like, your group of friends? I always think when one of you wins in a spot like that, where it's like, holy shit, this is the main event. How was the part? Like, how did it go?
Well, I remember specifically they get a day off between the final table.
Okay.
Right? So they had this ridiculous day where they had to play to like, I think it was like 6:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
or something like that. And it was just because they had mandated them. They've changed this since,
They've
which is
changed
good.
it, yeah.
But they mandated that you make it to the FT. So like, I remember him describing it as, you know, like playing good poker is certainly a percentage of this, but being able to play poker while you
At
are
all.
so tired
Yeah.
is another percentage of this. And I think a lot of people probably take that day off to sleep. And that would be my natural inclination if I'd been playing 7 days straight and had to play
same.
12 hours. I'm like, I'll sleep, I'll rest, I'll recuperate. He didn't at all. He just kept studying, and he went back and watched the reviews, and we talked about hands, and he just took the entire day to try and work, basically, without going into too much detail about what he did. He just wanted to work, and he said, I'll never have this opportunity again. No point sleeping. I'll sleep in 2 days. I was like, fuck, all right. And, you know, Rory was so supportive being over there, living in Vegas. Gave Adrian a lot of the resources, I think, both in terms of people coming in and helping him. He was a very important asset, Rory Young. Obviously was talking about it all the time with Kale and Corey and the people who had sweats. So we had all the hope in the world that the person that taught us so much about the game, and I think even though Kale's one of the best, I think Kale would openly say that Adrian's taught him some things as well. Certainly a lot for Corey and myself. We just wanted the person that we thought had worked the hardest to realize that level of success that they probably deserved. And, you know, he was playing like uber high stakes cash in the months like leading up to that.
Right.
So like, it's not like this came out of nowhere.
No.
Like you saw the trajectory yourself in Australia when it felt like there was like a 2-year period where it was like, Adrian and Daniel have chopped again. You know, like it was just like this 2-year
He's like
period.
the current, like, love him, but like Thatcher is one again, like, nice. Okay. What's new?
Jared's 18th title of the year.
Yeah.
I think it says something because obviously he lost heads up to Espen, and Espen did the same thing. He spent the whole day with Patrick Leonard. Like they were just like,
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Phil, made the FT as well, and he's very good. I think he just rested. But the two guys that got heads up were the two guys that spent the whole day just running sims and studying and like
Shows how hard it is. Like,
on the FT and,
that's got to be the sports element of poker. Like, I will never claim to be an athlete whatsoever.
No.
But when people say like, "Oh, poker's a sport," you know, it's like, no, but I can see what you're saying when I see these parts because that's just endurance, right?
I think you might be the only runner-up ever to have a kickboxing fight. I reckon that's
What the hell happened with that? No, actually, because I'll segue into like that will segue into a whole different thing. But like what? But I want to ask to segue off that. That was like a really lovely segment.
Mm-hmm.
What is your?
So what did that do for me, basically?
No,
Like,
what was your? You've been in the industry a long time. What was the moment I would say that you can think of where you're like a pinch me moment where you're like, holy shit, this is like sick? Because I feel like when you play poker for a living, especially after a long time, a part of your soul kind of dies.
Yeah.
As in, it's just another tournament. It's just another win. It's just another 100K up top kind of tournament style until you win it. Obviously, if you win it, it's fine. But it's very.
Well, you have to get numb to losing, I think, which is not an easy
yeah,
skill for people.
and
You
in
really
a weird
gotta,
way of
you got to have this ability, in my opinion, to calm yourself down by asking if you did the right thing.
Right.
And you need to get appropriately upset with yourself if you did. And it's a very hard task to almost be your own boss in the sense of managing not only your results, but your emotions. Because it's like, okay, I won here, but maybe I didn't play that well as the time that I came ninth where I actually played fantastically and did nothing wrong. And finding when and where you need to study is probably the skill set that forms if you have those emotions in check. I'd like to think, at least anyway.
What was your happiest moment?
I think it was last year because I talked about all of those sort of troughs and difficult periods around the 2020s, and then Adrian did that and thankfully had a bit more money, but also belief in the sense that I, study with Adrian all the time. I'm not trying to in any way compare my ability to his, but I'm never like lost when he's talking about something. I know what he's talking about, and I feel like I contribute to these study sessions at least a little bit. So like, why can't I do that? And it was really interesting because I then went on probably the worst downswing of my life after that. I've probably been like 100K between like Vegas, maybe there was a Poker Palace series or two, the WPT Australia in 2023, played like my first 20K. And then it was funny, those were all the big things like blanking Vegas at the WSOP is, it's USD. And
it doesn't count, it's like Monopoly. When
WPT went terribly, and then it's like, been at least a year since Adrian, I was like, oh, maybe, fuck, I can't do this. And it's funny to think that I'm like 32 at this point, right? I'm 33 now. So like the doubt was still like
those years kind of get you shaken up a bit as well now.
Yeah, I went to the APL Million and I stone bubbled the main event and stone bubbled the 5K satellite that night. Hell of an experience in those, by the way, because it's like, sorry if this is a tangent, when you're having like a really bad downswing and then you go and like, look, there's 7 seats given to this 5K. There's 8 of us left coming in like 2 out of 7. All right, the blinds are 2K, 4K, and the next level is 4K, 8K. And there's just like this Hitchcock music from like Psycho every time the blinds go up. You're just like, oh my God, and like, I suppose like it had this different vibe where everything had like piled up for me emotionally, and like, didn't feel like anyone was like, who I love to watch in a milestone satellite? Noel. He's just like, all right, I need to open 5-2 off like 3 more times and I've got a seat. He's going for it. This was the opposite. This was the absolute opposite. This APL table was like, Titanic has sunk. We're just hoping to get on a raft.
You're just setting up, your guys are setting up the deck chairs on the deck and we're all going down together, maybe play that island.
It's 15 minutes later and the blinds are 8K, 16K. And like, it doesn't matter what you came into the FT as, right? You're just like hanging on for all dear life. And of course I stone bubble it. And I was just like, why am I bothering like doing this? Like, it's like such a big downswing.
Because I think it's important to mention, like, not digging out that brand, just brands in Australia in
there's plenty of bad structured satellites.
Where
not a shot at the
edge you had, the edge you rightfully had, is in the edge you have spent so long to build up. It's just fucking ripped away from you in 2 blind levels.
Just insane, right?
Yeah, like
now you can loosen Noel.
And now Noel is like, I've waited all my day.
Blind straddles.
The perpetual super high roller of the Poker Palace. We have to mention that on the podcast, right?
For sure. So then when it swung back round, was the 25K?
So that was all the bad stuff, and I was like, maybe I'll just take a break and just keep playing cash. Because that was like my bread and butter online growing up, and thankfully had some reasonable results playing high stakes cash, which was kind of approaching back in Sydney, the casino and stuff like that. Nothing amazing. But then the guys at the table when we were playing pretty big one day was like, well, apparently APT has this 25K. Like, Dids, are you gonna go? And I was like, not really sure. Like, kind of taking like a bit of a break from tournaments, I'm thinking. But it hadn't been
still on the edge of that bridge at the minute, but like maybe not.
I was like, yeah, I'll think about it. And my friend, my dear friend who I went to school with, Alex Trevelyan, just another amazing person to have in my network, by the way, that you were referring to
Alex.
earlier. He said that he was going to play, and I was like, well, cash must not be running that day. And he's like, it's not. So
it's like, I got the schedule, we're free.
Who I enjoy playing with there, when to go play as well, like Dave Hanlon and Sean. I love Sean. I had this moment where I bluffed off like 2/3 of my stack playing a 25K for the first time, and it's like level 2 or something. I just bluff it off in a spot where like it's an ace on the river where this guy should have no aces whatsoever. We like over there, just part of our range, all the blah blah technical stuff, and he's like, ace, cool.
Yeah, but
and I was like, oh my God, I didn't, and I forgot what it's like to play
Macau. He's not subscribing to your, he's not reading your book, honey.
So it was like a 300K start stack, and I got down to 115K, and I honestly looked around, and I was like, I'm going to be the first person out of this tournament. Like, that is crazy. And I then just had this like, it was like this wave of like 5 spots that were like mandatory huge bluffs come up in a row. And I was just like, I'm not going to default to how I'm feeling. I'm just going to take them all. and they all worked. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like managed to like propel to like 2x start stack, and then had a big pot with aces towards the end of the day. Ended with like 4x start stack, and I was like, all right, cool. You know, it's not a big field. Like maybe I can go on a run here. And what was pretty funny about that was I actually busted Yeater towards the end of the day. He didn't have many chips, and I busted him in a cooler. It was like kings against ace king or something. Bye, Yeater. Don't expect to see you later. And then, of course, Yeater's back in the tournament the next day. Heaps of people re-enter, and it got like a pretty big field that I wasn't expecting. I think it was like 70, maybe 60
honestly,
or 70 people.
Credit where credit's due. Exceptional.
Like, yeah, and I wasn't working for them at the time or anything, but it had a 500k guarantee, and I think that's what got bums on seats.
I don't even just credit where credit's due in the sense of at that point in time, high stakes poker had taken a serious hiatus, because when online got banned, so too did a lot of the big brands. To be honest, like they pulled out of the market, and then you had ourselves included. I'll just speak from my own personal perception, where it's like, you could have serious balls to come back in and have like a 20k and have people dedicated. So that one was definitely the first one where people were like, the talk about town was that's never going to get up. And the reason people thought that's never going to get up is because nobody was doing it. And then it ran, and it was like you said, 70 or 80 entries, and you're like, do you know what? Like, hats off, credit where credit's due. And then you winning was just like,
oh, you've read the end of the story now.
Oh, yes.
Well, I should
Spoiler
say
alert.
as well, like, just before I actually played this, you know, from the cash session, I was like, I should probably go to Marconi to warm up if I'm going to go play this this 25k, you know, and finally got the W in the high roller, and it was such a great moment because my mum had just bought me this hoodie of my cat Mew, who I spoke about earlier.
Oh, I remember you wearing it, and so sentimental.
God moded, like ran so well. It's such a nice feeling, you know, just like,
it's
you have
so
ace 10, I have ace jack, but like, you know, several hours. And,
you're like, that 10's not coming, buddy. I'll tell you now.
And got heads up against Alan Wilson, such a lovely guy. And it was sort of a spot where I like had this weird conversation with myself. And I said, like, still don't have a trophy after all these years. Like, maybe we should talk about something.
And Alan's like, you're not getting one, buddy.
What's that?
Was Alan like, you're not getting one, buddy?
No, we just did ICM, but I basically was in a spot where I felt like you should play for this, Didier. You know, like mano y mano, like you're the pro, like over. And I was like, you know what? I think a trophy might do the world of confidence for me, you know. And having that that trophy, that photo, just sort of like was like a big like break in tradition, I suppose you could say, for a few years.
Well, boosting morale.
Yeah, I was like,
it
oh
was
my
like
God.
boosting morale.
I can't even weigh it up in the air.
Didier's like, I've took photos with these for years for the brand, but like I didn't think they actually gave them.
There was some fantasy story.
Let's go home with it.
So it gave a bit of confidence, and I actually took an irresponsible amount of myself in this 25k, and had like basically all of myself, and it was so amazing at the start of day 2.
Do you think that decision was made based on the fact that you would...
Momentum.
Right, you believe in yourself, right?
Yeah, I was like, finally, there's a bit of hope here. Yeah. Let's see if it just happens the way the negative. Like, if it's gone like this so far with the online, like starting poker, online poker, you know, maybe the years in between, Poker Palace sponsorship, rough 2020s, back up again with Adrian, back down again with the downswing. Well, this should be part of the poker graph, right? Let's just believe. And I was so happy with myself at the end of that day 1 to just keep running those bluffs in spots where I didn't really want to be running like all these bluffs in the biggest buy-in I'd ever played, but, you know, just felt like that was the theory. Roll with it, do it. And then at the start of day 2 was like the other end of tournament poker, which is critical and really important, and that's running like God. It's like aces, kings, you know, like queens, ace, king, we hold in the flip. And like the start of the day 2 gave me like just a lot of chips, basically. Didn't need to do too much towards the end of the day, and looked at the field going into day 3. There was like 13 people, I think 8 cashed, and it was like just, aside from I think 2 Asian gentlemen, like a who's who of Australian poker, like Martin Finger, you know, like
it gets so like that.
Yeah, that guy who I used to watch on like EPT winning high rollers.
You
and
know what's so
WSOP
funny?
bracelets, Alex Trevelyan.
I have like the coolest photo of you, where it's like you, Mustafa from Winamax, Martin Finger. It's so cute, Didier.
Oh wow!
I'm gonna put it on
so
the screen.
that is the ANZ PT Perth in like 2015 or something. The 6 Max side
I'll
event.
put the photo on the screen, but it's pretty sick. I mean, like Mustafa is obviously like...
He's such a lovely guy. Like that's where I met him, and you know, I didn't speak any Italian. I could just make references to like Super Mario and stuff.
Daltone.
Oh,
Daltone,
Daltone.
yeah,
And of course, this comes later. And we just got on like a house on fire, and we decided to like do a 3-way chop. Him and Jack Salt, you probably know Jack,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. You both know him from the UK scene. Fantastic players, and I was like amazed with like an even stack. They would chop with me, and I was like, maybe I'm playing okay, you know. And they're like, no, you play very good, bro. You know, like Mustafa's
He's from Latvia now.
you play sweet, you know, it's all good.
He's from Latvia again.
Yeah, maybe my accent is a little bit weird. But, you know, he was just such a warm guy, and I always see him every year in Vegas. We still talk about things, and he's actually curious about Australian poker, you know. Maybe he can come for an APO or an APT or something. He says, you know, just give us the opportunity. I think what a lot of those guys miss is us having something in January where the Aussie Millions used to be.
True.
You know, they really cherish that time spot.
But you know what? It's just
no
such
one's
an
really-
ideal.
Yeah.
Nobody is yet. Okay, but it's just such an ideal spot because it's like we're obviously going to tennis as well this year. But next
Wonderful.
year, I mean, if anybody needs like a good idea, that it's pretty lined up now, exceptional next year because it's WPT in the Gold Coast. Immediately after is the Aussie Millions in Melbourne. Immediately after is the APO in Sydney. So if you've
they're
ever
before you, are they? Oh, wow. Okay,
so if you've
interesting,
ever
yeah.
wanted to do a semi-road trip in Australia,
That's
I mean,
the time, yeah. I don't know
you-
what's on at the same time overseas. Do you reckon we can get
Irish
them over?
Open.
Irish Open. Oh,
Ah.
that's a tough one to get them away from.
I'll
these
be
ones,
honest.
right? Yeah,
No, I was about to say like every time when it's like the APO, I mean it's only happened once, but like when the APO is on, like even still now, a part of me itches where I'm like, I belong in the CUS. Well, it's in the RDS now, but I'm like, I belong there. And it's funny, the guy who runs the Irish Open, he said to me, a couple of weeks ago, he was like, I really need to come over. I was like, yeah, you should come over for the APO. He goes, stop clashing with me, you bitch. You run with my dates. And I'm like, yeah, we probably need to at some point down the line because like getting people away from the Irish Open. However, like having a WPT, Aussie Millions, and then the fact that I'm even in a sentence with those brands is bizarre to me. But it's insane that you have like WPT, Aussie Millions, APO, and it's Gold Coast, Melbourne, Sydney. So hopefully you'll see, obviously, Aussie Millions shutting down was heartbreaking. It kind of just paints the picture back to, it's been a rough ride for Australian poker players, for sure. I mean, you had your freaking golden snitch and they're like, you know what, we're taking it. Like,
yeah, Aussie Millions just it's like the final blow, I guess. I haven't really been to Melbourne since then.
Yeah.
You know, like 2020 January or February. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's just crazy.
but it's back. It's back next year.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
No, it's definitely back.
No, I mean it'll be back, but let's see how it goes and
how it plans
what the
out.
tournaments
Yeah.
look like, and that I'd like to be
poker just-
cautiously optimistic, but I don't know anything if I'm honest. So good luck to them.
It's strange. I was having like a weird sentimental, like I'm literally 29, but sentimental time when I was looking through your page, and I was thinking, when I looked back through your old school when you started, you had the brands, like you had Poker Stars, you had 888, you had Full Tilt, you had everybody who was anybody in the mix here, and then what it seems just happened overnight, which honestly, like, obviously benefited me in so many ways, but you just seemed that all of these big brands had no choice but to leave Australia, and they were gutted. I mean, they had like a core. It's Australia is like
All of
genuinely
them
one of the
tried
best
to do the
places
right
in the
thing.
world.
You know, PokerStars didn't want to upset the government. They just
No, of
completely
course not.
withdrew, and they said, "Well, this will give us credit when it eventually comes back."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
You know,
it's like, but then all,
and we
Still
wait.
waiting.
Yeah, we're a little bit more grey. We're still waiting.
but then what you had was, and obviously it benefited me in so many ways, but you had these different brands just genuinely run these tours, and it's like, hopefully with APO and obviously APT, but like hopefully you can bring back those big fields,
Yeah, I hope
those
so.
big numbers, those insane.
Well,
because,
you guys did an amazing job with the APO main event. You know, like what was the field size again?
I mean, it was alright. It was like 5.9.
509.
so good.
Just by the way, just you know.
Casual.
It was
Yeah.
like 6.2 million, but
Yeah.
no, honestly, like that's me just being a jackass for people who don't know.
But I mean, like
But,
you look at the dedication you guys put into your satellite program, and it reminds me of what Crown had the capacity to do in about 2 weeks at a series that no one else has ever been able to do. And you were so smart in spacing it out and giving people a lot of time, not only for your advertising, but I think you started in what, like November or something the year before, even a little bit earlier.
I don't know.
October?
Like rumor has it, like Will's permanent name is like William Overlay Davies.
Overlay
like,
A salesman.
Yeah, but you guys did a fantastic coordinated effort in like marketing it well and just having lots of satellites coming through. And I remember I saw you. I was coming down from my room at the Play and Stay at the Mercure, and it was the final table had just been set for the main event, and you were so happy.
Like, I couldn't. I'll never top how I felt.
Yeah, you know, obviously you're not playing favorites when you say how amazing is it that satellite players have made your FT.
I swear to God,
the goal as an operator, right, to have that ability not only for marketing in the future, but just like it's great to see people coming from the low stakes. They can win so much money now, and your chip leader was female. How rare is that?
I know.
Amazing for Gina.
It was an all around.
Yeah, I mean, that's so many people were, you know. And
it was such an all around moment. Like for me, obviously the gentleman we were talking about were a regular was there was two. One is like obviously an insanely close to our heart is Michael Sleeman, but then you had Daniel Tolomeo. Daniel Tolomeo, I will remember him on my deathbed because he bagged my first ever APO flight. And when APO launched, and the way I launched it with the early flights and the satellites and whatever, it definitely wasn't everybody's cup of gravy, and I knew it wasn't going to be, but it was at that point in time we had overlaid so much that there was even times where obviously Will is like was my partner at the time, like my partner, and then you had Rod, who is just so supportive of everything I do that like I could lead him into an arm and he's like, okay, we're going. They didn't falter me, and obviously my advisors back home, but then we had overlaid so much. We just had, and we had that flight, and then I remember it was a long day. And I remember when I built that tournament, I was like, what I want the way the satellites were set up is I want regulars. I want it to be the dream. I want it to be the 3K that people who play my $120, they play their, make no mistake, those players play our Poker Palace room out of love and loyalty to Will and I. That's genuinely what it comes down to. Like, we are struggling and they show up, and I remember that day not having like the best day, and then they bagged, and it was like 4 or 5 in the morning, and credit where credit's due to Ptolomeo, he bagged with Daniel Velkovic, who is like genuinely shit hot. Like, he's so good. He's just so good. And who else? There was another pro. Cooper.
And then, there was 5 of them left in 4 seats, and they were all playing really tight.
Liam Bubbles. That was so sad.
And Ptolomeo was just going
Well, when Ptolomeo bagged, he bagged, and he bagged chip lead, by the way. And he was one of the top 5, I think, going into day 2. And he bagged chip lead. And I remember being so tired and so just in my own head or whatever, that when he bagged, I remember looking up and he called his wife. He called his wife in the middle of the night, and I remember him looking at the clock. And then like kind of, it was so sweet because so many people play stuff just out of support. And then when they bag, they're like, so what now? Like, they don't even, they're there out of pure love. And they're like, okay, so what happens now, Laura? And I was like, explain to him. He was like, that's just amazing. And then he got like semi-emotional, and I was like, that's why I did it. He's why I did it. And then when it came to the final table and he walked out, and his son came and watched him, and his son does not play poker, and it was just,
that's a moment.
It was
he
just,
was the only person I've ever met who's playing a final table with like, I think it was 350k up top. And he bagged the 350 Diamond Cup, and he was running back and forth to play his day 2 stacking the Diamond Cup. And Hassone ended up winning. He was like, what are you doing? Just go, like, either run off and goal in. Like, he's like, you're
so
playing a
good.
huge final table, and he's running back and forth. He goes, no, I'm in the Diamond Cup. Playing the main event final table and the 350 Diamond Cup in the background.
And I think like a month before day 2, he was like, when's day 2 again? Like, I put it in my calendar, but it's bringing the poker that is so spoiled in Europe and America, it's bringing it back to Australia because you guys have such a flourishing poker economy. Like, Ireland is obviously the Irish Open, which is huge, but you guys in Ireland, they don't have the money, that Australians do. They just don't have it, and they really don't. As in like a normal weekly, like, I mean, every week in Australia at the minute. There's a series after a series after a series, and I wonder.
It's very back to back at the moment. You wonder how this congestion will affect like different series as well.
But with Aussie Millions returning, you would just love to see internationals. I know there's a lot of internationals out there that are like itching to come back to Australia, and
I know a long list. You know, people who tell me stories like they still have like, bro, I've got 80K in Crown casino chips or something like that. Like, let me come back. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they put up. You know, I think we're all waiting to see what Crown do, and I don't think anyone would really be rooting against them, honestly, because if they do well, it's going to be great for the rest of us.
Great for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
And you'd probably be thinking you could be a. Sorry, you're afterwards, aren't you?
Oh, we're after. But it's great.
People can stay. Hopefully,
it's great for our internationals. Obviously, Ray it's great for him to try and get the people over because it's like selling that first.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on to our second game. So, there is a very famous saying for people who are not even involved in poker, where it's what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Oh, boy.
I believe that every poker player in the world who has been to Vegas has wild stories. I think part of you goes to Vegas, part of you dies there, and then comes back. So what is your wildest Vegas story that you would like to tell?
It could be just your friends, you know, if you don't want to name names, but it doesn't necessarily have to be you. It might be something you've witnessed or...
You know me, I'm partial to a Vegas story. Very frequent Fat Tuesdays.
Yeah, there was an article written about me in Poker Asia Pacific at the time, which was probably like our Australian poker news back then. And it was about a bluff that I ran on Eric Lindgren on, it was the 3K No Limit Hold'em at the WSOP, which was like one of the bigger events, honestly. You know, you had like not as many super high rollers.
Yeah.
I don't think there was even like a 20K or anything back then.
10K used to be
10K was like, there were other 10Ks, but I don't think there was anything bigger than that. So like a 3K was like, this is like one of the big tournaments of your series. And to be honest, it probably doesn't reflect very well on my professionalism as a 21-year-old. But I guess you learn. And, you know, I was still out partying and, you know, finding myself, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
on a lot of nights.
I love that saying, finding myself.
Yeah. Look, I'll cut out the details, but my roommate, who you showed in the picture at the time, Cameron Bissett, in that limo, woke up and, you know, he had no idea what the story was. And I was rushing to get ready at like midday because I thought that it was important to be exactly on time for this tournament, despite having a hell of a hangover and having a really big night. And I went in and just proceeded to play this absolutely ridiculous hand against Eric Lindgren, where I think like he limped under the gun. I raised the button. It folded back around to him. He limp re-raised. And I was just like, all right, he's got it. He's got it. Like, I'm just going to 10-8 suited or something like that. Let's just outplay him, you know, like we're 400 big blinds deep. And came like ace, ace, X. He checks. I'm like, all right, you have like queens, bro. Let's go. Tripled it off with an overbet on the river, and he folded pocket kings, and I just showed him the hand, and he like had this diamond encrusted Bose headset, and like just like threw it across the felt like towards me. One of the little things like felt like it was almost popping out as a result, and I was like, oh, okay.
Chill, bro.
Yeah, like, you know, the thing was we had so many chips, I just think that he would have expected no one to have like any bluffs there, I guess. So, yeah, just a random 21-year-old kid he should have called, and I guess he got a bit frustrated in. But yeah, look, I had my wild nights myself, and I guess maybe like partying and stuff related was the first tournament I played was the Deuce to 7 single draw, the 1500.
Oh, I'm so glad you parlayed into this because Will has a lot to say on this. Who did you play in the Deuce to 7?
It was a pretty iconic table, actually, but it was highlighted by Phil Hellmuth. And there was a couple of people there who you'd know if you knew at the time, like Kevin McPhee and Robert Williamson III. And
the legends of the game.
Yeah, some interesting characters. And I did a very vanilla 3-bet where I 3-bet with a 7-5 pat, which is the nuts in Deuce to 7, obviously. And I got like 2 of those in like a couple of orbits where Hellmuth had opened. And like the second time I 3-bet him, he like folds and like hits his little chip tower. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that rant on YouTube, the Northern Europe one, where he calls this guy an idiot for like, he's like,
10 minutes.
idiot, you're from Northern Europe. He comes from nowhere, you know, absolute idiot. Can't even spell poker. He like gave me the exact same spiel, like verbatim, just with the word Australian in there. And he was like, bloody Australian, 21-year-old, probably can't even spell poker. He's going to be out of this tournament in 15 minutes. And like within 15 minutes, I busted him. And you know, he goes out through he goes out through the security exit, and you're like, are you allowed to do that? And he came back, which was the scariest part. He's a really tall guy.
I was gonna say, you're probably sweating.
Yeah,
you're
I'm 21, and he's a couple of years younger than he looks now, but he's always been he could be basketball height. And he came back, and he's like black glasses and black shirt, and like he feels like Batman or something, and he comes to watch the table. I'm like, oh no. So we finish up, we go to break, and he goes, hey kid, and I'm like, hi Phil, and he was like, I just wanted to let you know I was out of line, and I wouldn't get that way if I just didn't care so much about poker and believe so much in trying to do well, and I just love the game, and it gets a hold of me. And I was like, I was really ready to give this person like credit, and then he pulls down the sunglasses and just goes, because if it wasn't for luck, I'd win every single one of these. And I was like, Phil, we were so close to having a nice moment. Like if you just stopped like 2/3 of the way through, you would have done perfectly.
You know what? I just have to say like one thing with regards to that, and I know I'm completely different, but like working in the industry, you see like all types of people. I just have to say, because I would feel bad if I didn't, he's so nice to staff.
Really?
Oh, I promise you, like these infamous blow-ups that are obviously very infamous. They're there, they're documented, they obviously happened, but staff-wise, he's so nice. Like, it's so hard, because obviously
it's hard to imagine.
I know, but
he blocked me on Twitter last year.
I know, and I said, Will loves this.
I love this. The tea, as they say.
How many people do you think he has blocked?
A lot, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, like,
without
knowing what I did, like, how facetious could Didier be? Like,
he remembers
am I really
you.
the guy on
He's
the
like,
online streets? Like,
no, but he remembers you. He saw your photo with your fucking Justin Bieber haircut, and he thought, that fucking kid, I knew it.
Millennial.
I knew he was shit
an
back in the
Australian
day.
guy. Block,
yes. He's like, I told him he couldn't even spell poker, and now I gotta block him.
He treated a woman that we played with absolutely reprehensibly on the table, and that's what I basically said in the post, because he was criticizing Isaac Haxton for being bad for poker, and I think that's such a...
Just because of the mask?
Yeah, just because of the mask. And, Ike has a pretty amazing track record of resigning from PokerStars because they weren't paying their Supernova Elite players, which was one of the tiers of membership where they were like all given 20 grand at the end of the year or something. And I can't remember the exact details, but you resigned over it, and everyone was like, wow, Ike was on a big contract, he does wear a mask all the time. I understand that frustrates people, but it's just because he doesn't want to get sick. He's not trying to make like some political statement. And Phil said that he was bad for poker, and I was like, come on, Phil, like I saw you like angle a woman last year while we were playing together. And that's without mentioning Ultimate Bet, right? I think when you compare their careers as ambassadors, it's day and night who I'd rather represent the poker industry. That said, Phil is obviously entertaining, and he brings people in from outside of poker, which is very important.
I don't know. Entertaining's a strange word, because like obviously I know I just stated my piece, and I stand by that's my personal piece. But however, I know staff members in America who have seen. Obviously, it's a really, really hard situation. I've seen it time and time again. We have it so minuscule over here in Australia, but like you see people who are obviously attached to massive brands, and they blow the fuck up, and they are giving green passes that we would not be given. So they lose their shit. They lose their shit at staff. They lose their shit at players, and it's like, what do you do? Do you want to be the floor person who disqualified Phil Hellmuth? I feel like a PR team, but you know what I mean? They're thinking in their head, okay, he's sponsored. Can I disqualify him?
Yeah.
But it's obviously an important conversation to have if you're going to call out somebody else for being bad for poker. I mean, you just better be sure that everybody who's had interacted with you, everyone who's interacted with you says, God, that guy's good for poker. And they're like, actually, no, you're the same guy who like threw shit at me. It's not it.
you know, it's a very big
How did
accusation.
you get?
to
Oh,
make.
so when you said that he didn't respond to you, he just blocked you.
He just blocked me. Yeah,
Oh.
I wasn't actually like going to like
Go
message
into a back
him.
and forth,
either.
yeah.
I was merely defending Ike, who has honestly, in my experience with knowing him, being just the nicest and most kind person.
Right.
I had a really weakened immune system after I got COVID the first time. I didn't get like the easy COVID. Like most people get the easy COVID, hopefully,
Me
these days.
neither. I actually thought
You
I was
did?
dying, but
Yeah.
I'm very dramatic. But I, honest to God, I was
Yeah.
like, sent the priest. I'm on my last bite right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was symptomatic for like 2 weeks. Got some nerve damage in my chest, really random symptoms, and they just said, "Look, you kind of probably need to take some PPE protection." When I was at WSOP 2023, and it was hell wearing a mask that often. If I'm quite
Yeah,
honest,
it's
I don't
hot.
enjoy doing it at all, but I had to do it at the time, and he was just super helpful and just getting some antivirals. And now I just use like a nasal spray sometimes that he hooked me up with. So when he doesn't know me at all and he goes to the lengths to just be like, here, if you want
Yeah,
to protect
he's
yourself,
kind.
like,
Yeah.
he's obviously a kind person. And I think the criticisms were more about probably society in general on Phil's behalf, because, you know, I can understand some commentary that people want to make on those things, but I don't see how they're relevant to poker a lot of the time, unless, like, Joe made a really good point on Twitter this year, actually, where, you know, I think Jerry Yang was playing with like the hat, the sunnies, and the mask, and I agree with him in the sense that, like, maybe we can choose one or two, but, you know,
100%.
like when we're just trying to become like astronauts, I think it's a bit much, especially in live poker.
See, I kind of love it. I love the theatrics. I think there's like more to be said in, look, poker's going to continually change.
Yeah.
When people can't make angles, they find them. You
It's
know,
true.
I genuinely
Yeah,
do
Martin
believe
Cabral's
that.
certainly
It's-
reinventing the wheel.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you had obviously Kasuf. Like, I feel like when people can't find angles, they create them.
And
at
of
the
course,
end
Warwick
the day-
occasionally attends Poker Palace.
I mean, he probably, I don't know. Like, I love him, but he probably, yeah, just some sort of like sadism maybe there.
Talking
I think
about-
he lives for the shit talk. In
I
my,
love it. I
brief
mean, their
experience
whole
knowing him.
friendship group.
It's definitely entertaining.
He
When you're on the
takes
end of
it-
the slow roll, though, it's less entertaining.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
no.
you know,
Yeah,
I-
you got a really bad.
I kind
one
of
there.
like, on one level, like, Warwick and I argue about everything, by the way. Like, but I kind of, as someone who's not a professional poker player that comes in just to get like that rise out of pros, like, there's something pretty funny about that. I got to give him some credit.
I have, like, a
Sucks when it
super-
happens to you,
Yeah.
but
I have like a
it's
super.
kind of a little bit entertaining. It's taken me a few months to
Well,
realize
a real
that.
good one is entertaining.
I have
A
like
really
a
good
And
slow
you got
roll, yeah.
done very
You
deep
see,
in the high
Nielsen
roll.
did it to Linsky heads up in this tournament in the Philippines. Like, no one gets away with that other than like
Yeah.
Daniel or like fucking Warwick, you know.
I have
So
like a
you have to be a
semi-funny
certain
Warwick
person.
story where it's like, is it? Should I? Yeah, forget. I'm gonna say it. So like one time I was like dealing. It was like super late in one of my tournaments, and they were like four-handed. That's all I remember. I'm really bad. Like I do not remember poker information at all. And I remember I was dealing, and like they went on a break, and Warwick was like, "Are you tired?" I was like, "I'm really tired. I'm up at like 8 or 9 for like I can't remember. I was probably going to the gym or something, but I was tired. I was like, I'm okay. And he's like, you want to go home? And I was like, yeah, but that's okay. We'll play. And they came back. He's like, watch this. And they came back, and he was like, guys, look, the money means a lot to you. The money just means, I think he was like running back and forth the entire time. Like he was like final table, and like it was either a 2.5K or a 5K.
Yeah, it was.
Didn't give a shit. He was playing backgammon in the
Yeah.
technically playing backgammon in the corner. They're playing backgammon in the corner with his friends. Anyhow, he was having a really good time, and he came back and he was like, the money means a lot to you guys. Laura wants to go home. And this is the side of Warwick that I like need to make known. He agreed to do a deal with everybody only if they tipped my staff. Only if they tipped
That's
my
nice.
staff.
That's nice.
You know, like it's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
strange that you guys, me running a room sees, like I said, we kind of see a different side of somebody
Yeah.
too.
No,
where
yeah.
I'm like falling
You
asleep.
understand their objectives. 'cause
Tired as shit.
Right before that, I'm pretty sure he slow rolled Amin. He was like,
The nicest
you know,
guy
Amin has
ever.
probably never offended anyone in poker.
Never.
Amin's just
One
like,
good thing.
why have you done this to
Probably.
me?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Right.
it's just like the targets that Warwick picks are so like,
They're so
different
obscure,
to
yes, they're
what-
so
why it's so
obscure.
good, though.
Yeah.
They're so
You know,
obscure.
like, when
Nobody's
Andy Lee-
immune.
When Andy Lee talks to me, like he's telling me a funny story. They were like doing a deal for a 20K at Star once, I think, and one of the people was like, "Can you guarantee it for Warwick?" You know, and because they just weren't sure if they trust him. And Andy was like, "No, Warwick is super honorable when it comes to like the payments and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
For sure.
Oh,
He just
yeah.
loves to banter and to shit talk.
Oh, he
basically.
loves
That's
it.
what
He loves it.
he's
Which
just
is
for,
like,
yeah.
an important
That's what I
note
mean,
where
like, you can enjoy
like
it.
find your sports that like you love the part. So I have one question, one very fun
I
question.
just run to the bathroom. Is that okay?
You can, but I was about to, you
Right,
can't.
finish.
You can wrap.
Last
I was about to
question,
wrap. Yeah, last question.
Oh, last question. Okay, go for it. Yeah, sorry.
Unless you have more you want to
No,
talk
it's gonna be
about.
that-
I have
This
plenty
is all
we can
going
talk
to
about.
get cut out.
This
But.
last question is what we're going to ask. The one we're going to ask every guest.
Okay.
So, you know Snog, Marry, Avoid?
I already told him.
The
So,
game Snog, Marry, Avoid.
we're going to finish it off with my last question. The question is back, beat, or bust? Which player of these three very well-known players would you like to back in a tournament? Do you believe you would be heads up? Or would you think they're going to be busto and you would drop them? The three contenders you're going to be given today are your good friends, Adrian Attenborough, Jonathan Carmelakis, and Daniel Nielsen. And you have to give reasons why.
No.
So which ones would you back, beat, or busto?
Oh God, so tough. You know, like without Adrian having touched some cards for a few years, you know, maybe he's actually the one to beat at the moment. Do I have to pick a different answer for each friend, by the way?
So you got to
Yes.
put a friend for the
For-
answer.
for
So
each
which
one,
one would
yeah.
you love to back? Which one do you believe you'd
I
be
can't-
heads
I
up?
can't-
And
I-
which one do you think is
yeah.
going to be busto? You would drop
I
them.
guess you could say I've already done the backing part for Adrian, so that's a big tick, you know. But I guess I would say beat for Adrian, which is quite funny because I just have to like gamble on his lack of experience lately and sharpness, but he'll still probably beat me anyway. But I'll go with beat for Adrian. I think like who would you rather back than Daniel Nielsen in his current form? You
Yeah, this is
know,
true.
like the guy's absolutely incredible. Like they banned alcohol at the venue in Manila after he won. That was the first of his 3 titles.
I
that
mean,
he's just
I
won
was in
lately.
Taiwan and I saw some.
He's just drinking the whole time, and it's like this level of like disrespect that he can have for his own body, but still just destroy everyone.
Oh,
at
I
poker.
thought you were gonna
Is
say,
that
like-
a delayed disrespect to the rest of the field.
I thought you were going to say
I
like
mean,
disrespect for the brand, because did you guys see that video where he had his trophy? Love that for him, but he had his trophy and he like was in the nip and he like put his
Yeah,
trophy.
and it was like the Lion King music,
Yeah,
like
it's
such
so
a
funny.
good choice of music. You know, like
And that's the guy you're backing.
And it was like
I'd
he
back
went-
him proudly. I'd be
Yeah,
like,
you
he'll
would.
win the tournament.
They
He
went
doesn't
to
need
take-
clothes.
They went to
you
take the
know,
photo
yeah.
of him and they had all the chips, but he had all these like mini Jaeger bottles and he
Yeah.
was like asleep.
It was absolutely. It might be the best worst
They
of all
couldn't
time.
even get the photo because he was like asleep on the
Outside
stack
Nick
of
Schulman's
chips.
Cigar and
Yeah.
feet up. That's my favorite photo of all time.
Oh
Oh,
no, that means I'm dropping Jono. Oh god, no.
It's
No,
so
I
might
funny.
need to
It's
restructure
been
now.
done,
Yeah.
mate.
It's so funny
No, I
because
might need to swap Adrian and Jono now in retrospect because Jono's playing again. You know, so.
Because of you.
Oh wait, no, but then do I want to beat him? It's a tough question. I have to decide who I'm willing to drop.
it's so random because
as
I
opposed to
actually
my
thought your
heads-up
answers were
experience.
so different. I actually thought you were originally setting that up in like Daniel Nielsen is insane, but I'm gonna have to busto him. Like I would not back him because he's so outrageously.
No, that's the thing. I trust his ability
Oh,
to drink that
yeah.
much that he can still destroy everyone.
Under
at
any
poker.
circumstances, he'll perform.
Yeah, like really, I think you could give him more than alcohol, and he'd still find a way to at least be making FTs.
Yeah.
But you know, just so I give him something out of respect, I just want to say like what a brilliantly naturally talented poker player he is. You know,
Oh.
like he's not looking up those solves. Like he's
He's street.
yeah, he's real street, and like he's great at just profiling people and just
Yeah.
playing like old school poker to like the best way that you can. I think he's just such a force. Definitely in my top 5 Australian live MTTs at the moment, easily. Yeah.
Who do you think's overrated?
Oh.
That's so hard to answer without necessarily
Okay, I'll
offending
answer it.
someone.
Will
you know?
Davies.
Yeah, well, I mean that's obvious. Like,
Yeah, oh, thanks.
yeah, Raymond Cassim, Bert Perry. You know,
Does
like,
anyone
yeah,
rate
just-
Ray?
What's that?
Does anyone rate Ray?
Well, we're all surprised at that WPT final
Yeah.
table, no doubt.
As
But
we
we were
see.
happy for him, I suppose you could say. No, I think people know that Ray has the capability.
When
Obviously, deep
crypto's
down,
going
so-
well, he'll play fine.
yeah. He sometimes doesn't respect the size of the buy-in, and I wonder if that is because he's too busy trading. A few dogs with some hats.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, you know. But no, I don't think there's anyone that I would like point out in the Australian poker industry.
I'll
as
let
being
you finish
particularly
on like a
overrated.
very nice note. Who do you think is underrated? Who's next to watch? Underrated. Do not answer Malcolm Trainer, or I love him, but I will lose my shit.
I was going to ask if they're allowed to have had results or not.
Yeah,
because
but underrated.
Yeah, like someone who I would have maybe just at the back end of my top 5 Australian poker players who everyone knows and thinks is good, but I give a bit more respect is Sean Ragazzoni. Obviously.
Pasta, I love him.
Yeah, honestly.
He's been working out.
One of my female friends actually said that in Vegas too.
No,
so
he has been working out. Him and Yita.
He thought he was getting a
been
poker
hitting the
compliment.
gym.
We've just started talking about his physical appearance.
He'll love
He's a
that.
good-looking man.
Yeah,
you know,
now this is a problem. This is all going to go to his head.
You know, it's like such a funny story.
You know, we have a very competitive friendship. You know, this is going to need to be edited. You know.
No, he's the best. I remember once I got introduced to him. I can't remember who introduced me to him because I was like one of those rare days where I had a few drinks, and I was at the WPC and someone's like, Laura, I have to introduce you to this person, he's super important. And I was like, okay. And they were like, this is Sean Ragazzini. And I was like the pasta.
That's what she said. And he was like, yeah, I guess so.
And I was like, I'm not being your name sounds like pasta. And since then we hit it off, and him and Yita and stuff, they've been like working out a lot, and they look great. They look really great. They're in Asia a lot. Sean Ragazzini, he's like I actually have a lot of funny Sean stories where I like genuinely just like insulted him in the nicest way, but I heard he busted 10th in the WSOP, and I did not know that because like you said, he's super under the radar, right? He's so lovely, and he just kind of flies under everyone's thing. And someone told me the story, and I was like, that had to have hurt. And he was like, yes, Lord, that hurt. And I was like, no, like I could never get over that.
The poor bloke's like trying to forget it, put it back in his head, and then here she comes.
And he was like,
really hurt
he was playing my 20k at the time, and he was like, yeah, it wasn't great. And I was like, well, at least you're in Bosley Park now. I mean, there's only up from there. But Sean's a good pick.
Yeah, what I notice about him that's so funny is like, particularly I did this a few times at WSOP in Vegas this year, is like, there's those tournaments where you go off to like a flying start, right? You know, you've got like 4x start stack on day 1 or something like that. Like
Will cannot relate. Will every tournament
wow,
Will's ever won.
Yeah.
He's had less than 10.
What are you talking about? Yeah. I find those when you race ahead, you know, I look at Raggers and he's like 30 big blinds. You know, I have like 200, and I just have this like overwhelming fear now because it'll be like 3 days later in the same tournament, and I'm obviously long gone, you know, not even a story. Maybe I didn't even cash. And Ragazzoni's there. He's on the final table. He's
26.
still got 30 big lines. You know, like it's like, how have you done this? You know, he has this amazing ability to survive. And when you look into that more deeply, you actually can see what an amazing short stack player he is. And I think the discipline he has and the knowledge of a lot of short stack spots is superior to even some of the players who I think people would rank above him on a list if there was a list of the best Australian players who I think would honestly even concede that themselves. I think he's so good at what he does, and it probably speaks a lot for specializing in a discipline. I think that you know, Raggers is a little afraid to play the cash, you know, the bigger deep stack spines.
He doesn't want to play with
Jono
big
used
dogs.
Jono had his club during the pandemic, and Raggers would come in and short stack with like 20 to 50 bigs, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? You know, and then you realize it's one of the best tournament players in Australia. Like, oh, okay. But yeah.
Sean Ragazzini is a good one. Okay, well, on that note, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was
today,
fun.
Didier.